Our film today begins with Ji-Wol, who lives with her brother in his apartment. She spends her days wandering the streets with his kids and constantly stirring up trouble with the neighbors. But when night begins to fall and she knows her brother is about to return from work, she rushes back home. This time, however, he catches her in the street and confronts her in a huge argument because the kids have started copying her behavior. He tells her he wants her to find somewhere else to live and move out. She replies, "Fine, I'll go, but first, give me the payment for all the years of service I've done for you and your kids." She starts calculating and comes up with a total of about 170 million. He hands her his bank card and tells her the withdrawal limit is 200 million, giving her the password too, which turns out to be his youngest daughter's birthday. The next day, she goes to a local property broker to help her find a room nearby where she can stay for, at most, a month, assuming her brother will eventually bring her back. But the broker tells her there's only one vacant place available, and it's far from their current neighborhood. She refuses and insists, "Look, my brother will take me back soon. Just find me somewhere close, even if it's a garbage dump. I won't stay long, as I said." She insists on a place nearby and heads there, suitcase in hand, full of joy. The first person she meets is the building's guard, who's shocked when she says she's renting an apartment in the green building and wishes everyone a happy month. He responds bluntly, "Happy month, my foot. Didn't anyone tell you this place isn't fit for humans?" She laughs and says she knows everything. But it's fine. It's still a place to live. She goes up to check the apartment and starts moving her stuff in, but she can't sleep all night. At exactly 4 a.m., she hears loud banging coming from the apartment above. She goes up to confront them, asking why they're making noise at such an hour. No one answers. She turns to go back down, but suddenly sees a woman holding a knife behind her, screaming. Ji-Wol runs to the guard in panic and wakes him up, asking him to call the police, but he just brushes her off, checks the time and says, "It's just 4 a.m., relax. Didn't I already tell you this place isn't meant for people?" The next day, she brings her police officer friend in to tell him what happened. But when they arrive, the woman with the knife from the night before welcomes them with lunch and tea, acting completely normal. Ji-Wol starts to doubt herself, especially when she learns the woman is the resident's representative. Sitting down with In, who knows every inch of the neighborhood, he tells her the banging sound has been happening every day for 6 months, at the same time, all the way until morning. Everyone in the building hears it through the metal reinforcement rods. They contacted the construction company, who said it's not their responsibility since there's no structural fault. Despite trying to catch the person responsible, they never find anyone. The culprit always vanishes without a trace. Later, Ji-Wol attends a residents' meeting where they discuss completely rebuilding the building. No one agrees because it would mean being displaced for a year and paying more money than what they already spent to buy their apartments. As she and Cha walk home, they see someone standing on the roof preparing to jump. Ji-Wol runs up, telling her friend to call the police. When she reaches him, she says, "Stay where you are, don't jump. We're close to catching the culprit," but he has lost hope and says they'll never catch him unless he turns himself in. She tries to stall him, asking his name and age. He tells her his name is Hyung, and he's 36. She says she's 36 too. What a coincidence. She jokingly threatens that even if he dies, she'll prove he was the culprit and drag him from his grave. Hyung insists he's innocent, just a victim. She manages to talk him down by convincing him to wait a week. If they don't catch the culprit, then he can do what he wants. He finally reveals that a fortune teller told him he'd lose his job and drown in debt, selling him a red amulet for 200,000. Desperate, he decided to die with dignity. Ji-Wol tells him to stay away from that fraud, but Cha defends the priestess, claiming she's helped them all. Ji-Wol decides to see for herself. She goes to meet the fortune teller, who turns out to be a man in heavy makeup. She lets him continue his act while calculating how much he makes monthly from people. It adds up to 5 years of her own salary. She accuses him of making the noises to draw clients and earn that much money. He denies it and argues, saying if he were behind the noise, he'd be stupid because people would eventually get fed up and leave, and he'd lose his customers. As she leaves, she gets a call saying her brother's kids are alone at the bus station. She rushes there and finds them trying to follow their dad because they missed her. When the father arrives, he scolds her, blaming her for the danger the kids were in. She defends herself, saying she's trying to catch a neighborhood menace and that she could easily move out. But she's not the kind of person to just give up. Back at the apartment, she finds a red sign on her door and suspects a thief. Searching the apartment, she finds a high school girl hiding. She scolds her and makes her fold laundry, ordering her to clean the door next. The girl insists she didn't write anything and doesn't even know who did it. Ji-Wol rushes to get the guard to check the CCTV, but he says the cameras are broken and the tenants don't contribute enough money to repair them. He advises her to just change the door lock instead of making a fuss. Later, she waits outside for the fortune teller. When he returns, he gives her a list of 4 apartment numbers, people who've never visited him. The culprit must be one of them, he reasons. Ji-Wol takes the list to Cha to see if she knows anything about those residents. Cha tells her the first one moved out, the second is an elderly man who works a day shift and sleeps early, and the third is a harmless lady. But when Ji-Wol asks about the fourth, Cha hesitates and says that guy is weird. He's unmarried but owns a lot of women's clothes. She suspects he might be wearing them himself, and the banging started right after he moved in, so he might be the culprit. But when they investigate, he turns out to be a content creator who uses the clothes for videos. He even joins their team to find the real culprit. He had been measuring the sound levels for weeks and concluded that the noise is loudest from floors 2 to 7, particularly apartments 1 to 4. They decide to split up. Each team member takes one floor and records sound levels from 4 apartments, 3 times per unit. Then they'll compare the data. The high school girl points out there are only 5 of them, but 6 floors. Ji-Wol assures them the fortune teller will help too. The guard is skeptical, saying, "What if the culprit is among them?" Ji-Wol says that's fine. If they're with us, there will be no banging tonight, and we'll know for sure. Suddenly, Ji-Wol spots her niece Myung arriving alone. Ji-Wol is thrilled and takes her upstairs. She calls her brother to let him know Myung is with her and will spend the day. When their sound level experiment begins, everything goes wrong. Cha's phone is dead, the priest spills beans on the tracking sheet, and the high school girl forgets one apartment. Only the man who almost jumped does a proper job. His recordings show the 3rd floor had the loudest noise, narrowing down the culprit to a single apartment. They call the police and gather outside that unit. When officers break in, they find a strange apartment with cracked tiles under the rug. The woman living there had been banging on the floor every day for 6 months for an unknown reason. She's taken to the station for questioning. By the time morning arrives, Hyung tells Ji-Wol that he's heading to the roof again to jump, as promised. She tells him, "Unfortunately, you can't. I locked the rooftop door. Besides, I need your help cleaning. Stay alive a little longer." A short while later, Ji-Wol decides to fix the building's elevator at her own expense so that everyone can benefit. While she's waiting, she sees a woman heading upstairs and calls out to her to use the elevator instead. But as soon as the woman hears her voice, she bolts. Ji-Wol chases her, and when she catches up, she discovers it's not a woman at all. It's a man, and he confesses he's a squatter, currently hiding in apartment 202 without anyone noticing. He asks if Ji-Wol was the one who called the police the day before, and she proudly admits she was. But he gets angry, saying, "She's not the culprit, you fool. I'll tell you the whole story." He explains that he always sleeps with tissue in his ears to block out the nightly noise. But the previous night, the sound was louder than ever. When he went to check, he found the actual culprit in his living room, banging on the wall. He hid until the police came, and then the noise stopped. Ji-Wol races upstairs and finds a bat on the ground and marks all over the wall. She taps the wall with the bat and hears the exact same noise from previous nights. She rushes to the guard station and tells Cha and the team to meet her there. She tells the guard what she discovered, and he tells her that the plan must have been leaked. There's a spy among them. Suddenly, a bucket of ice water splashes her face. The woman they reported earlier did it. She cries, asking, "Why me? Just because I have no family. My husband is dead. You did this to me for nothing." She insists that the damaged floor was caused by her dead dog, and she's not crazy enough to dig through the ground. At that moment, Ji-Wol's brother arrives to pick up his daughter and sees everything that's going on. He tells Ji-Wol, "Pack your things. You're coming back to the apartment. You're dragging people into bigger problems." But Ji-Wol refuses, saying he should take his daughter and leave. Just then, he breaks down crying in a strange way, saying, "Where's my daughter?" Time stops for Ji-Wol as she flashes back to the day Myung went to preschool for the first time. Ji-Wol had promised to pick her up in 5 hours so they could play together. The bus came and took all the kids to school, where they played until 2 p.m. But no one noticed that Myung never left the bus. She remained locked inside, struggling to open a window until she passed away. No one realized until the bus was reopened later. Since that day, Ji-Wol entered a state of denial and trauma, and for years, the 5-year-old Myung lived only in her mind. Soon after, Ji-Wol begins packing to leave the apartment. The imaginary Myung keeps talking to her, saying she has a plan to catch the culprit. She waits outside for the guard to give him the money for the elevator maintenance. But when he takes too long, she gives the money to Cha to hand it over later and says her goodbyes. As she heads out, a resident thanks her for all she's done over the past 2 days, saying it's the first time in 6 months he's been able to sleep peacefully, all thanks to her. Ji-Wol has a sudden realization and begins piecing everything together. She suspects the guard might be involved. The neighbor tells her the guard was hired after the noise started, and he always wears earplugs and sleeps through everything. Ji-Wol concludes he might be covering for the real culprit, one of the 5 team members. Since he knew the plan, he could have used that information to keep the noise going. She had told him if the night stayed quiet, the culprit must be among them and outside the apartment. But the neighbor doesn't believe her, saying the guard works hard and is always operating the crane for the demolition company. Her suspicions are confirmed when she realizes he works for the very company pushing for the building's reconstruction. Her instincts tell her the company planted him to drive the tenants away with constant noise so they could take over the building. She retrieves resident records and cross-references them with her team, eventually identifying Hyung as the true culprit. She goes to his apartment, pretending she's just stopping by to say goodbye and share her number. He replies through the door that he doesn't want to see anyone and that his phone is broken. She tells him directly, "I know you're the one. Just admit it so I can help you." He finally opens the door, his eye bruised. He confesses, "You're right, but I never want to see you again. You're the reason for everything I've become. If you hadn't tried to play the hero, I'd be dead and at peace by now." As she leaves, the elevator is broken again. In the control room, she finds the wires cut again. She storms over to the guard and drags him to the supply room, where she shows him a wire cutter and paint, saying, "I saw you using this before. What exactly are you doing with it?" The guard laughs and denies everything. But Ji-Wol goes straight to the point. "The demolition company you work for sent you to sabotage this place. How much did they pay you to wear us down so we'd move out and they could take over?" He hits her on the head to silence her before she can expose the truth. He drags her to the water tank room, planning to dump her there so the entire water supply gets contaminated and the tenants are forced to leave, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Meanwhile, Ji-Wol's brother is browsing through her computer and finds old video recordings she made, including a newly uploaded one, a conversation between Ji-Wol and an unknown person. Now, we rewind an hour earlier. Ji-Wol was coming down from the roof when she met Hyung, who began crying, telling her, "I'm a victim in all of this. You know how the banging started. I was beaten almost every night, and I hoped someone would call for help, but no one did. Then one day, that gang threatened to kill me unless I created noise to drive the residents away. It all started because I lost everything in a scam investment. I fell into debt. This was my only way out." He promises to help her for real this time. He gathers the group and confesses he's the true culprit. The plan is for Ji-Wol to lure the guard away from his room. While she distracts him, the others will sneak in to find evidence linking him to the company. But Ji-Wol's brother shows up looking for her and warns them. Any evidence obtained illegally will be dismissed in court. Hyung insists he'll do whatever it takes to make the guard pay. Meanwhile, Ji-Wol is tied up in the storage room, hallucinating that Myung is playing with her. She only snaps out of it when her brother rescues her. This time, instead of yelling, he gently tells her it's not her fault, and no one can blame her for what happened. Outside the building, the team is waiting for the guard. As soon as he shows up, they rush him. But he overpowers them. Still, they manage to snatch the key to the safe from him. Hyung tells the high school girl to throw him the key, and he makes a brave jump to catch it, but it falls into a drain, ruining their chance. Amidst the chaos, Ji-Wol and her brother successfully open the safe and retrieve all the files, exposing the guard's crimes, not just to the building, but the entire neighborhood. But the guard lunges at her unexpectedly, trying to steal the files. She runs through the street and hands them over to her police friend at the station. And that's where the film ends. If you made it this far, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any future recaps. Peace.